taxation. So the first topic nga i-discuss under this subject is the introduction to taxation, of course. Focuses on the entire taxation in general. So applicable siya sa tanan. So this is just the basic principle do mga introductory topics sa taxation. Okay. Inherent power of the state. So before we discuss the taxation, now let's discuss first what are the power of the states. So we all know that the Philippines is considered as a state, sovereign country. So it means that it has its own government, it has its own people, may independent ang ginatawag. Nobody can dictate us what to do with our country. So we can generate, we can levy, we can create our own law, we can enforce our own law, we can do whatever we want under the word freedom, di ba, or independence. So being a state possess an inherent powers. So when we say inherent powers, pag silang ka-inherent, ara na sa aton, di ba? So automatically it will be granted once na establish ang Republic of the Philippines. Automatic these three powers is already present. So one of that is what we call the eminent domain. So what is the power of eminent domain? So it is the power of the state, sorry, it is the power of the state to take private property for public use upon payment of just compensation. So please take note, on the picture provided, may gina-construct nga dalan. So sa dalan nga ina, so obviously it satisfies one of the elements of the definition of eminent domain. Ano gani? For public purpose or for public use. So those roads or those land or property before naging construct ang dalan is owned by private individual. So pwede na makuha sang gobyerno, pwede na makuha sang government naton para patindugan dalan, pwede na namon i-baklon as baklon sa sang Republic of the Philippines as represented by, of course, one of the agency which I belong or I employed, the Department Works, the Department of Works, the Department of Public Works and Highways. Sorry, kakalipat na ko sa ngakon nga, no? Department of Public Works and Highways. So kami na mabakal sa dalan, then that's the time patindugan na namon dalan. Kami mabakal sa duta or sang land or sang property, dason patindugan na namon dalan. Just like what you seen in our picture. So hindi lang sa DPWH, guys, pati sa mga iban pang gid nga mga gani, sa iban nga mga functions ng government. Like for example, nang may lote ka, dason amo nang nakita sang government nga nami patindugan sa mga flood mitigation or flood control structures. So you have no choice but to sell that property to the government for just compensation. So amo ning kinambal ko nga mas mas excuse me, mas mas dominante ang iban nga mga eminent powers ang iban nga pungsod. Like for example, North Korea, they can get any property they want. Miski bayaran ka pa nila or hindi. Kumbaga, under ka sa ilang mercy. Diri sa Philippines, wala iya makasuway na iya kung hindi mo pagbayaran sa government. Delayed lang goro or madugayan lang, but still you will receive the portion of your property or the just compensation for the property taken by the national government or by the government. That is the power of eminent domain. So guys, ang eminent domain, hindi ka ni ka-deny, hindi ka kambal nga kapang hindi. Okay? Amo ning ginambal nga eminent domain. Saying no is not an option in the eminent power of domain. So, what if hindi mo gusto ibaligya ang property mo? Yes, pwede mo ma-delay ang pagkuha nila. But the government or the Public Works and Highways or any other government agencies nga gusto ko ng mga property, iagi na nila sa korte. Okay? Agi na nila sa korte and in the end, maperde ka man Japon. So, galing lang, laglawig lang ang proseso. Okay? So, maybe instead nga naka-negotiate ka sang presyo sang duta mo, kay tungod ginpatig mo baligya sa gobyerno, imbis nga mamahal pa ang pagbakal sang DPWH, mabarato na lang. Kay tungod nakagpakatig-a ka. So, kung nagpakatig-a ka, ginagi mo na ang ginatawag nga, ano na gani, due process. So, just compensation na ginang makuha mo. So, hindi ka pwede ka papresyo kung ipagi mo sa korte. That's why, may advice as a professional, as a accountant, hindi PWH, once the government offered your property to be sold by the to buy or baklon sang national government by nang i-offer mo dayon baligya mo dayon hindi ka magtiga. Syempre you have to reserve your right nga masiguro nga mabayaran ka, that is your right, but I mean ang ginamin ko ya hindi mo paghawiran, hindi ka magpakatiga nga hindi mo pagbaligya kay we already knew under this slide nga in the end, the government will win if ever nga gina-contest mo kung ibaligya or hindi ang imong property. Okay? As long as it satisfies the element or the definition of eminent domain. So that is the first power of the state. Second, police power. Okay. Police power, the power of the state to enact laws, promote health, public morals, public safety, and general welfare of the people. So when we say police power, it does not connote nga police lang dayon. So all of the agencies, most of the agencies I mean, are exercising the what we call police power. Like for example, DPWH, nang we can exercise nga hindi kami pwede kapaagi sa dalan sang government or sang Pilipinas if you exceed the maximum load capacity. Kung nakita niyo sa mga taytay, di ba may mga load capacity na. So in case nga hindi kami magpaagi, we can do so because we are protected by the law and the state grant us what we call the police power to enact or to promote health, public morals, public safety, and the general welfare of the people. And siyempre, ang pinaka-obvious nga example na is ang Philippine National Police. Kaya do sila gid ang may pinaka-grabe or ang may pinakadako nga pa do kalabanan sa pangalan pa lang nga daan do ilagid mo. But as I mentioned earlier, does not mean nga ila na. So, like for example, the Land Transportation Office, sa mga taga-LTO, di ba panakop sila sa mga salakyan nga wala na rehistro, panakop sila sa driver nga wala driver's license. Because, is it legal? Yes. Is it under the power of the state? Yes, that is under the police power of the state granted under the Land Transportation Office, excuse me. Okay, so okay, we go now to the third power of the state, which is the subject matter of our discussion, which is what we call taxation. So taxation, if you uh, if you read, kung nagabasa ka mo Bible, taxation is already existing during biblical times. So Roman Empire nga nagadominar sang tiyempo sang tiyempo ni Christ nang sila tong nagapangolekta taxes. Per se, taxation is not an abusive power because ano ganing ginambal sang taxation? It is the process or means by which the sovereign or the Republic of the Philippines through its lawmaking body, it means there are kung i-review talang ang aton nga gin-discuss sa ang inyo nga mga nabalaan sa parte sa constitution or sa forms ng government naton or sa structure. I-recall ta lang. So under the Republic of the Philippines nga set up, there are or the power sa Republic of the Philippines or sa democratic countries divided into three, di ba? Into three branches which are who can name which are
Judiciary.
Executive, sir. Executive.
okay, very good. Bro, ano pa? Isa lang?
Judiciary.
Judiciary.
Legislative.
Judiciary.
Legislative, sir.
Legislative.
Okay,
Legislative, sir.
na-mention nyo na tanan-tanan. Na-mention nyo na. So that is legislative, the executive, and the judiciary. So those three branches has equal powers. That's why sa nakaitsindi sang sistema sang aton nga pungsod nang hindi lang niya si President Duterte ang pinakamagamhanan nga tao diri sa aton nga pungsod, but the three heads of those branch mentioned ninyo bago lang. So the judiciary is headed by the chief justice, the Legislative is headed by the Senate President and the Speaker of the House sang aton nga lower house or ang aton nga House of the Representative. Mga congressman bala, gabuton sila leader pagid mo. So ang speaker na amo ng pinaka-head nila under sa legislative. So aton legislative branch has two is divided into two, the upper house kag lower house. Ang upper house, that is the Senate, lower house is the Congress. So they shared equal powers. So then the last one is the ng executive, which is headed by no other than President Rodrigo Duterte. That's why guys, in times of martial law, these three powers is consolidated to one person sa president lang during Marcos regime. So kung para ginahammer ko lang sa inyo guys, kaya para hindi nyo bala namin ko hindi ka mo magtalang kung i-discuss ko na ang aspects ng taxation. Kay para may klaro tabla may separation ta sa mga branches. Kay kung mag-mix na karon, kung hindi ta na karon concrete or hammer down ang ano na gani, hammer down ang separation sang power sa isa ka democratic form of government, matalang-talang ka muna. Okay? So according sa aton nga presentation, ano na gani? Sovereign through its law-making body. So sino ang ginamin sang ginatawag nga through its law-making body? Sino? Somebody from the group. So let's proceed sa aton nga kita yung slide. Kita niyo yung slide, guys?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, through its lawmaking body. So, what is the purpose of taxation? Kumbaga na gina-dissect ang definition. This is the backbone sa aton nga topic, ang definition ng taxation. Raises income to defray necessary expenses of the government. So, one purpose ng taxation or the only purpose ng taxation is to raise income para may inugasto sa mga function as may inugasto sa ano na gani sa sa mga expenses ng government. Like for example, kung tanaw mo guys, the video presented embedded in our PowerPoint presentation is the campaign of the Bureau of Internal Revenue to pay their for filing of income taxation or income taxes. So, kung tanawon ta guys, everybody or Filipino citizens is contributing their boxes, which is represented the portion of their income which is computed or as form as income taxation or income tax I mean. Kag ang inang mga boxes was built to create bridges. So that is what we call the symbolism sa ginatawag nga taxation. So sa dira pa lang nga video mabalaan mo kung ano ang definition sang taxation. This is I think 2004 nga advertisement sang Bureau of Internal Revenue. Okay? So may mga kada box ko na notice niyo may mga tin, i-discuss na siya dason. I think sa last chapter na guro. Compliances. Okay, na tax identification number. Very encouraging ang video nila, no? Amo nang iban gambal nga hindi sila kan magbayad nga tax, sang tax sige nga corrupt man kalang kano sang government official. But kung tanaw mong definition, it is our responsibility to pay our taxes, to declare our taxes honestly and correctly. Kay gamito na sa government. Try to imagine if we don't have an armed forces, we don't have ng military hardwares, kay tungod wa ita kwarta, kay tungod wala ta taxation. Try to imagine kung ano matabo. Subong pala nga daan, we have military assets, but still China and other countries nagalibot sa airspace naton, naga-survey, naga-recon. Try to imagine kung wala pa gid depensa. So, ng any country can ano na gani, can decide to invade us anytime because wala sang may ma-defend sa aton. That's why that is the very heart or the lifeblood sang aton nga national government or sang government is ang ginatawag nga taxation. Taxation is the lifeblood of the government. Why I mentioned naging hambal ko siya nga lifeblood because number one nga inherent power kag number two nga inherent power is considered useless without this third inherent power, without taxation. Paano paano magdalagan ang atong ginatawag nga eminent domain if you don't have money to pay your compensation for the property para sa property nga ginkuha mo sa private individual. Okay? So how can you enforce laws or yes, how can you enforce laws sa dalan, sa police, sa fire, any other sa businesses, sa trade, how can you enforce laws if you don't have the money to make it na gani na mag-function siya effectively. Of course, those are useless. Number one and number two are useless without taxation. So muna, under this topic, under this topic and up to that last chapter nga i-discuss naton under this subject, we will talk on taxation. So, amo lang to ang introductory lang to ang first two nga inherent power of the state. Okay? So, let's proceed. What are the aspects of taxation? Okay, so if you notice earlier, gin pa-recall ko sa inyo ang ang branches ng government, di ba? Gin pa-recall ko sa inyo ang branches ng government kay para gusto ko mabalaan kag hindi ka mo magtalang-talang kundi inda nga parte ang function in levying and in collection. So let's proceed with the aspects of taxation. Levying or what we call levying or pag-pronounce nila levy or levying. So, when we say Levi, 'di ba si Levi hindi na siya sa Attack on Titan, ang pinakabaskog nga nila, soldier. But Levi, kung baga ginkuha ni siya sa word, sa Greek word nga nga sa tribe balas ng Israel nga na gani mga Levites which is sila na mga lawmaker. So the same man in the sa aton. When you say levying, it is the legislative intervention on imposition of taxes. Okay. So the BIR cannot collect without a law nga naghambal nga pwede sila kakolekta, 'di ba? So BIR naga-create law, yes or no? Ang BIR naga-collect laye, sorry. Naga-collect tax.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
naga-collect
sir.
sila. Pero naga-create sila tax laws?
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Let me revise my question. Maka-collect sila tax without a law nga naghambal nga pwede sila kakolekta?
No, sir.
No, of course.
No. Yes, sir.
No, yes. Of course, hindi pwede ka hindi pwede ka tawag na hindi pwede kapag gusto
Kakolek.
nilang pangolekta si BIR sang taxes kung anong gusto niya nga pangayoon or ano gusto niya nga i-collect. Of course, it will be aligned or it will authorized by a certain law na-create na nga law. Just like, ang pinakabago nga example, subong is ang create law kag train law. Are you all familiar with those laws? Create law kag ang train law? Bago na sila under ni sa pandemic nga response. Bati ka mo na?
Bati lang, sir.
Ang
Bati
train
lang.
law lang.
Okay.
Train law.
So, ang create law, kag ang train law, sila ng mga bago nga layi nga ging enact sang Congress, kaging approve sang Senate, kaging enact man sang Senate, of course, kaging approve ni President Duterte, which are directly related to directly related to taxation. So, we will discuss more on create law kag sa train law because ang purpose ng train law kag sa create law ging update nila ang tax laws mo kumbaga nagbag-o ang tax laws naton so maybe from 20% nga income tax it was reduced to 15%. So ang may power lang nga mag-amo na is ang layi which is enacted or levied by the Congress or the Senate or the Senate, okay, or the legislative branch. That is the one of the aspect of taxation. This is very important. Levying. Okay, the next one. Okay, may picture ko gali. Train law. So, train law is Republic Act number 10963. So, Republic Act lagi na siya, guys. Ang Republic Act. So, in violation, kung mag-violate ka sa mga Republic Act, may mga kalabanan na, may mga criminal na mga offense kang na-violate for criminal cases. Okay? Then the newly enacted Create Act or Create Act sang una subong law na kay wala guro na update ang picture but Create law na siya subong. So the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentive for Enterprise Law or the Republic Act 11534. Excuse me. So ang Create Act or Create Law was enacted para ma-support ang falling economic crisis brought by the pandemic. So mo na ang ging nila, ang ging create nga enact. But of course, they are related sa taxation. So please take note for these two laws which are timely nga examples ang kinatawag nga levying aspect of taxation. Okay, the second one is what we call collection. Amo ni ang pinakakitaon nga aspect ng taxation, ang magkolekta. Makadto ka sa Bureau of Internal Revenue para mag-compute sang imong income tax kag bayaran mo ang na-compute nga income tax. So of course, that is the BIR, Bureau of Internal Revenue, Bacolod City. So dira ka na nagabayad sang aton nga taxes diri kung if you are under the jurisdiction of Bacolod RDO or RDO 77. Okay? RDO 77. Excuse me. Okay, so any question? Question, Danay? Question? Silent means no. Sorry, silence means no question. Clear tanan? Okay, sige. I'm going to assume. Proceed ko ha. Klaro ha. Okay, next aspect. The principle of sound tax system. The principle of sound tax system. Okay, so what does it mean when we say sound tax system? When we say sound, it means efficient kag effective nga sistema sa taxation. So there are principles na gina-follow in order to attain the efficiency and effectiveness of taxation or tax system. The first is the equality or theoretical justice. So the tax imposed must be proportionate to the taxpayer's ability to pay. So kung na-notice nyo guys, in the video nga na-post bago lang, some individual carry small boxes and some individual like for example, dire ang naka-white ni nga gown niyo, I think he is a doctor or a medical practitioner. So he carry a box bigger than the other or siyang may pinakadako sa nga picture, di ba? So that is an example of equality or theoretical justice. Okay? So subong nga sistema, we are a civilized people. We already practice these principles of an efficient and effective tax system. So if we contrast that on Roman Empire, sang times ng Roman Empire, whether you are rich or poor, you have to pay bigger taxes equally. So equal does not mean ng ng ano ng ano gani kung magsiling ka equal, it does not mean fair. Because like for example, kung nagasukot tax be 10,000 a year sa tanan nga taho, some individual, barato na para silang 10,000. Sa iban, pare sa akon, ang 10,000 mahal na na. So that is not theoretical justice. That is not equality. Okay? So ang ginambal nga first principle is the principle of equality in theoretical justice. So that is seen in the video presented sa aton nga slide or sa aton nga PowerPoint. Okay, the next one is the fiscal adequacy. Sources of revenue are sufficient to meet government expenditures. Okay, so it is assumed that or it is estimated that the amount of income through taxes nga makolekta sang government is equal or more than the government nga galaston sang government. So that is what we call the fiscal adequacy. But in actual, hindi na mong katabo. Mas dako ang gastos ng gobyerno compared sa compared sa ginakolekta yung taxes. If you notice or if you are aware or if you are nagatanaw kagid sang current event, 'di ba? Ang programa subong sang administration is the build build build, 'di ba? So build build build. So kumbaga nang damo-damo gina-construct ng mga dalan, damo-damo gina-construct ang mga projects, wala tuo nga construction. Okay? So that is an example of expenditure. But diin halin ang ginabayad sa build build build. Diin na halin ang kwarta. Is it to taxes? Yes, maybe portion of it. came from taxes collected from citizens of the Philippines. But in my research pa mo na lang. Sa akon nga ginpang tanatan-aw nga pangbasa-basa, majority of the funds para sa bill was a loan from China. Okay, so kung tanawon mo, failed sa ginatawag na fiscal adequacy. Sources of revenue are sufficient to meet government expenditures. But if 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 we're going to broad or palawakon tang aton nga pag-analyze, ang ginatawag na fiscal adequacy sources of revenue mong why mo siya nagambal sources of taxes, 'di ba? Or sources through tax revenue ang ginambalya. So that is the principle of fiscal adequacy. Dapat ang gastos ng gobyerno dapat enough nga makuha or ma-earn through collection of taxes or any other means. Next is the administrative feasibility. Law must be capable of convenient, just, and effective administration. So the third one is more on more on the function of the BIR. So kalabanan dapat simple yun ang pag-compute ng tax, ease of doing business when you are filing and paying your taxes, maybe sa bangko, any other tax. Kung diin ka pwede ka bayad sa tax mo, dapat convenient na da. So that is the what we call the fiscal administrative feasibility. Before we proceed, questions na Naibe or clarification? Somebody from the group? Anyone? Okay, the third or the fiscal adequacy. We have three principles of sound tax system or efficient administration of taxes, which is equality, fiscal adequacy, and administrative feasibility. Okay, the next topic is the limitation of taxation. So obviously, guys, what is provided is the limitation because the existence or the creation sang power to tax is inherent, di ba? Automatic sang na-obtain naton ang independence, automatic, the three inherent powers of the state is already present. So no need for a law or no need for a document or a black and white nga kasulatan nga naghambal nga si Republic of the Philippines can tax its citizen. Wala sang amo na. Okay? So, if we're going to argue sa dira nga aspeto, it means that the power to tax is unlimited. Wala boundaries, wala borderline because the power to tax is an inherent power of the state. In short, kay para hindi ma-abuse because that is prone to abuse, so there are two limitations provided by one is by the Constitution. So my point is, ang 1987 Constitution provided limitations on the power to tax. So, ang nagahatag sang boundary or ang nag-identify sang boundary between hinigaran and binalbagan is sa case ng taxation is the Constitution itself. So, ang Constitution is the framework or ang pinakananay-nanay nga layi, di ba? Di ba? So, if there are laws enacted after the 1987 Constitution, those law, ang inangalayi nga gusto ipatuman or gusto himuon nga layi, nang it should be within the bounds of the Constitution. In short, hindi siya pwede ka-go against sa Constitution. So if there are doubt between the Constitution and the new law, what will prevail? Of course, it is the Constitution. So amo man ni ang ano. So in case guys, there are provisions sa train law kag sa create law nga wala na tulupangdan nga gahambal gali against sa Constitution. So those provision is considered unconstitutional. In short, wala power, wala effect. Okay? Because the Constitution itself will prevail. Ang Constitution mismo ang ma-prevail. Okay. So what are the limitations or what are the boundaries set by the Constitution or the 1987 Constitution? Okay, so mo na 1987 Constitution. Piyak pa nga slide, sorry. Okay, the Philippine Constitution. And the second limitation is the inherent limitation. Since taxation is an inherent power of the state. So, sang na-automatic create ang taxation, nag-automatic man na may limitation sa dayon. So, that is what we call inherent limitation. So, these are restrictions to the power to tax attached to its nature by the nature to tax. So, automatic, arin na siya. Ang una ya, ging hambal sang konstitusyon. Ang ikaduwa ya, automatic sang na ano na gani na na-enjoy sa Pilipinas ang iya independence, the power to tax, or there are already limitations attached to it, attached to the power to tax, power of taxation, I mean, sorry. Okay. So what are the inherent, let's first discuss the constitutional limitation. What are the limitations provided by the Philippine Constitution? We have number one, due process of law. So those are basic na lang mga applicable man sa iban nga layi. Equal protection clause, charitable institution, churches, parsonage, or convents appertinent there to most non-profit cemeteries in all kinds of lands, buildings, and improvements actually directly or exclusively used for religious charitable purposes shall be exempt from taxation that is expressly written or provided by the Constitution. No law impairing the obligation of contracts shall be passed. So, of course, if there are violations sa mga contracts na excuse me, hindi wala sang tax laws nga ma-create nga naga-impair sang obligation if there are obligations of contracts. Okay? Non-imprisonment for payment of non-imprisonment for debt or non-payment of poll tax, wala may mapriso sa ano gani sa utang or sa pagbayad sang poll tax. Take note, poll tax. Wala sang ginambal yung nga tax sa poll tax lang. Okay? So, kung hindi ka magbayad sang tax, mapriso ka gina because you are violating the National Internal Revenue Code. So, ang imo nga kaso na da is tax evasion. So, kung may utang kaya, hindi ka mapriso kung wala ka may pinirmahan or wala ka maging promise nga mabayad. But if you have promised through promissory notes or issuing a check, then nagtalbog, so you will be imprisoned for not you are imprisoned because of estafa pang-into, hindi kay tungod may utang ka. Okay, so amo nang mga isa na mga example. Number 6, uniformity, equality, equality na siya guro guys, sorry, typo error, and progressivity of taxation. So we will talk number 6 in the succeeding slides. So just reserve na lang na sa next slide. Okay, the next limitation is what we call the inherent limitation. As I've mentioned earlier, amo ni siya ang mga limitation sa taxation, which is already present to the on the time that the power to tax is is existing. So sang na ano nato ng independence naton, automatic may power to tax ta after na ang mako ang automatic power taxation power, automatically it will attached to it is limitations, inherent limitations. So on the purpose, taxes may be levied only for public purpose. So we have already explained that sa definition pa lang. So hindi wala sang taxes na i-levied or i-create. When we say levied, guys, ma-create layi. So please highlight this term or this word levied, levy, or levying. So when we mention those terms, it means creation of tax laws. Naga-create ka tax law under the legislative function of the government. Okay, wala sang taxes nga i-create nga ang purpose hindi public use. Okay, for private use, that is a big no because it is provided under inherent limitations ang power to tax. So on the territoriality, the state may be taxed on persons and properties under its jurisdiction. So common sense will tell you nga common sense will tell you nga ma-agree ka sa sining limitation because try to imagine if you enforce to collect taxes on Chinese people in China, so you are out of your territory. You have no power to exercise ang ina nga functions ng imong gobyerno. So that is very obvious ang number 2 on territoriality. Okay, third, international committee. Property of a foreign state may not be taxed by another. So when we say international committee, it is a principle nga gina-respect sang tanan nga kalabanan nga mga countries. So, a classic example sa ginatawag nga international committee is ang mga embassy, di ba? So, kung nagatanaw ka mo mga movies, like for example, may spy ang Amerika, ang CIA nga na-burn ng iya identity, na-identify siya nga spy sa gali. So, ang ginahimo iya, gabira-bira siya dlagan, kagasulod siya sa, ano gani? Kasulod siya sa US Embassy sa Russia. So, ang mga police or ang mga law enforcement sa Russia, wala na, hindi nakasulod dito. Although, the embassy is under the land or sa ara sa duta mismo sang Russia, but Russian forces cannot go within those premises because of what we call international committee. Same is true with Russian spies in US. So kung ma-burn ang ilang identity sa mga espiya sang Russia sa US, ang ginahimo sang Russia gadlagan sila sa embassy mismo kag hindi na to kasulod ang mga US forces. Of course, because they respect sang yung ginatawag nga international committee. Although, the property of the Russian government or Russian embassy in US is owned by, ang duta mismo is under US soil, but under international committee, that is Russian soil. So, dokano no? Muna, same is true with Philippine embassy in US and in any other country. So, same lang ng ilang prinsipyo. So, inherent limitations also, that the third limitations is also applied to taxation. So, hindi pwede na makasukot ang Philippine government sang property tax or any other taxes in relation to US Embassy in the Philippines. So, ang US Embassy sa Pilipinas, ara, da sa may ano na balang lapit na bala sa may Dolomite na balang beach bala. Roas Boulevard. Nakahapit ko da mo. So, hindi na da off guard na miski ara lang sa Manila ang ilang property, but under this inherent limitation, the Philippine government cannot collect anything from the US Embassy in the Philippines. So, that is the third inherent limitation. Fourth, exemptions. So, time check, we are it is already 6:40. Okay, continue. Ma-end lang ko 7:30 or 7. Tanawon ta lang kung damo na ta na take up. Kung naitsindihan nyo man lang, we can end at 7 or 7:30. Okay, check. Tanawon ta lang. Okay, next. Fourth inherent limitation is what we call exemptions. Government agencies performing governmental functions are exempt from taxation. Okay? Like for example, DPWH. May property diri sa Takuling. Lapad ning duta sa DPWH. So of course, hindi kami pwede magbayad, hindi kami pwede sukton sang city government o Bacolod sang property tax sa duta namon because it is we are government agent. We are one of the government agencies, and under the inherent limitation of taxation, we are exempted from paying taxes. So I think number 4 is very comprehensible. We can proceed to number 5. Non-delegation. The power to tax na siya guys. Another typo error. Sorry. The power to tax is an absolute. When we say absolute, walang halong gamay nga higko. Wala clear as water, clear as crystal pa na nga ano na gani nga declaration. Power to tax is an absolute legislative function and cannot be delegated. Hindi pwede mapasa. So, ang mag-create sang layi, and one of that examples are tax laws is solely for the congressman or House of the Representative and the Senate. So, those power cannot be delegated to the president or to the chief justice or any other individual nga gusto lang nila. Do mga-issue lang bala sila SPA yaw, hindi na siya mo. So, the power to create tax laws or laws in general is an absolute legislative function and it cannot be delegated. Number 6, the rule on double taxation. Nasugpon pa na. Wala na. The rule on double taxation, of course, no taxes shall be imposed twice on the same subject matter and on the same type. So we will discuss that double taxation on the succeeding slides under this topic, under this chapter, I mean. Okay. Diri na lang. Double taxation ay taxing a person, property, or right twice within the same year. So, two kinds of double taxation. First is the direct double taxation. This is prohibited in which two taxes on the same subject matter by the same taxing authority. Like for example, nagtax na nalukot na property tax ang Bacolod City, ano na gani? Ang Bacolod City government. Pagkatapos after 3 months nalukot pa gid sila, the same tax man, the same property man ang Bacolod City, ano, so that is a clear direct double taxation. So that is prohibited. Okay? The same taxing authority. Tanawon nyo guys, always ang naga-implement. Subject matter, parehas ang taxing or ang nagapanukot sang tax. Okay? Next is what we call indirect double taxation. On a subject matter, one tax is imposed or collected by the national government and another tax is by the local government. So, indirect double taxation, so lain-lain naman ang taxing authority, the national government and the local government. So, i-hammer down ko lang ni guys ang difference sang taxation sa national government kag sa local government on the succeeding slides. Okay, ara na da siya. Taxation or yes, situs of taxation. Some pronounce it as situs, some pronounce it as situs. But the proper pronunciation according to Google, according to my colleagues, it is situs of taxation. So situs of taxation is the place of taxation. So a government or state exercises its taxing power and authority only on taxpayers' income or transaction that fall within its jurisdiction. So guys, how can you identify if taxpayer income or the sa transaction is within the bounds or it is within the jurisdiction of the Philippine government? Paano mo na mabalaan? So, ang sa sitos of taxation ang mahambal sa imo na kung you are still under the jurisdiction of the Philippine government. Amo na nga may sitos. So, amo ning ma-identify because different taxpayers, different kind of income, different kind of transaction has different sitos. So, amo na medyo ambal ko ginabulubog at because damo kay consider nga mga factor. Okay, so gains, profit, and income from personal property sold, ay sugpon pa na siya gali, from sold in the Philippines. So, I have created, gali, factors in determining the situs of taxation. So, there are 4 factors. One is the subject matter. So, you have to identify first kung ano ang subject matter sang gina-tax mo or gina-compute mo nga tax. So, you have to answer the question, what is being taxed? Okay? So, is it a person or a property or a transaction? Okay, so, kung sa diri pa lang adaan guys, magsiling ka, for example ako, may duta ko, ng sukton ko property tax. So question, ano ang subject matter? Amo, sa ang choices mo
Property.
picture lang. Diinda.
Property.
Property, very good. So, property, very good. Property ang subject matter. Pero sino mabayad? Alam naman ng property mismo. Natural ako, kaya kung tag-iya, sina. But the subject matter is ang duta. Amo na ginabasihan sang tax. Nagets yung difference? So
Yes, sir.
okay, when we talk about subject matter, it does not mean the person who will pay the taxes. So ang subject matter amo na siya ang property, the person or the transaction nga ginabasihan nga mabayad ka tax. So in my example bago lang, the subject matter is the property, not hindi ako as the owner. Pero natural ako mabayad, obviously. Okay, how about may ano ko, may negosyo ko. May negosyo ko. Like for example, gabaligya ko lugod. Dahil damo mga kliyente. So, anong subject matter? Is it the
Business,
person?
sir.
Is it the property? O ang lugod? Or
Ako good.
ang lugod?
Ang business mo, sir.
ang business.
Transaction.
Okay, ang business in buying and selling lugod. So, muna ang subject matter, ang transaction. Ha? Hindi ang lugod ang subject matter or ang inventory or ang property. Hindi man ako ang tao nga tag-iya sang sinanga business, but the subject matter is the business itself, which is engaged in buying and selling of lugod. So that is an example of ano na gani sang ano na transaction. How about ng naglakat ko sa nagsaylo ko ilistaran from Bacolod to Bago. Dayon nagkuha ko sedula. Nagbayad ko sedula. So what is sinoda ang subject matter sang ginbayad ko nga tax? Sedula or community tax certificate or CTC, sedula na siya sang chimpo ni Bonifacio. So sinoda ang subject matter? Is it the person, the property, or the transaction?
Person.
Transaction, sir. Ang sedula, sir.
Cedula, sir.
Ang sedula, sir.
Hindi, ang question lang either ang
Person.
choices nyo gali is only the person, the property, or the transaction. Sino ang subject matter?
The person,
Person, sir.
Person.
So, the answer is person. Person. Sedula. When we say sedula, ng identity mo na as an individual. That's why during Spanish colonization period, nang hindi ka pwede kagwa wala ka sedula, amo na ka-importante sa unang sedula. So, ang taxpayer na ang tao, nga ginagaan siya sedula because ga-exist siya as individual. So, ang subject matter is the individual itself. That is an example of so the subject matter is the person. Okay. About our topic which is income tax or income taxation. Ano daw ang subject matter? Oh, sige ba?
Try,
The
sir.
person, is it the property or the third one which is the transaction?
Transaction, sir. Transaction, sir.
all of the above.
All of the above.
Ha?
Ano ang liwat
So,
mo,
almost
sir?
sa inyo, kalabanan sa inyo, tsaktong answer. It is the transaction. Transaction to earn or an opportunity to earn income, amo na ang ginatawag nga, amo ng basis sang aton ginatawag nga income taxation, ng income mo. So, ang income. So, that is the transaction of an individual nga nag-earn siya. That's why, ang subject matter sang aton nga income taxation is the third one, which is the transaction. So, amo na yung mga factors in determining the site of subtaxation na. Sa subject matter pa lang ta. Okay. First thing ninyo nga tanahon or i-identify kung sino or ano ang subject matter sang what is being taxed. That is the first question that you're going to answer before mo ma-identify if it is within the bounds or within the jurisdiction of the Philippine government. Second, nature of tax. Which tax to impose? So, this is my question kagina, hanggang nga, this, amo ning mga examples ko kagina, hanggang pamangkot sa inyo, nature of tax. Okay? So, in our topic nga i-focus all throughout the semester except chapter 1, kayong chapter 1 general ni siya ya, general ni siyang introduction sa taxation. Hindi lang niya para sa income tax, kundi sa tanan niya taxation, introduction ni siya sa bilog nga taxation mismo. So, for income tax, amo tong gin-mention na nasabat na nako na actually kagina sa fourth ko nga trivia. Okay, the third one is the citizenship of the taxpayer. You have to identify if the taxpayer is a Filipino citizen or an alien. So, if an alien or somebody which is not a Filipino nga nagapossess ng Philippine passport, so it is he or she is considered as a Filipino once may passport ka sa Pilipinas. So, kay wala man gina-issuean passport ang mga alien mo. So, maybe they are dual citizen. But in our tax laws, they are considered Filipino. Okay? So, taxable sila Japon sa ang mga kano nga nagpa-neutralize, taxable sila under Philippine government. Under the jurisdiction of the Philippine government. Fourth, residence of the taxpayer. So, you have to consider kung diin ka star ang taxpayer. Is it within the Philippines or outside the Philippines? Residency. So, on next chapter, chapter 2, next topic I mean, we will talk more on the third and fourth factors in determining the status of taxation. So, third and fourth will be reserved na lang sa topic number 2, maybe next week. Or kung matapos na ito sininga semana, so it will be discussed next week. Okay, so bilin ta lang na anay. The truth behind that CTC, amo na siya, nang it is a proof kung diin ka ga-star. That's why you are taxed as an individual on that particular area or in that particular place. So the sitos is the residence of the taxpayer. Property, the sitos is the location of the property except intangible property. In such case, it is the domicile or the residence of the taxpayer. Okay, what are the difference of domicile and residency? May ara na difference. So, ano ta lang. Excuse me. So, ang property, kundi ang domicile, guys, it is where the property is located. Except lang, for intangible property, because intangible property, guys, 'di ba, hindi makita. Like for example, copyright, patent, ano pa ng ano pa ganyan ba? Copyright, butang na lang copyright kag patent. So, kung diin ga star or diin diin may damo presensya ang taxpayer, dira na da siya taxable in case lang for patent and copyright. Okay? So, like for example, kung ako, may libro ko, kag ang libro ko copyrighted, kaging ginabaligya, it was sold all throughout the country, so din ko mabayad tax because the transaction is is ano na gani, nagkakatabo nationwide. So, diin ko mabayad tax if ako ang taxpayer nang diin ko mabayad tax. Of course, kung diin ko ga-star. So, in my case, subong sa Bacolod. So, I'm going to file and pay my taxes on income earned in relation to copyrighted materials in RDO 77 or the Revenue District Office in Bacolod City. So, amo na siyang ginambal nga property. The situs is the location of the property, except lang sa intangible. So, ang property mismo, kung nagasukot ka land tax or property tax, natural, Bacolod will only collect property taxes. City government of Bacolod, will only collect property taxes on taxes located within the boundaries of the city. Mula na. Activity. Activity. The sito, is the location of the activity. Kung di inatabo ang transaction. Okay. Like for example, in my kagina singin mention ko, ako na may copyrighted ko nga mga nga material, nga libro. as I discussed earlier, kung ako ang magbayad out of the income earned from that copyrighted material, dili ko yung mabayad, di ba, sa RDO Bacolod, RDO 77. Di ba? How about if may publisher ko? Then, ang publisher ko, nag-conduct, nag-perform its business operation all throughout the country. So, activity na siya ma-fall, no? Kay business na mo, no? Hindi na siya intangible. Hindi na siya property tax, di ba? Intangible na siya. So, diin ko na ma-file sang account, sang sila, ang account publisher, dito mismo kung diin natabo ang transaction sa head office nila or sa ilang branch. That is the situs is the location of the activity. Second, the nature of the tax, which tax to impose. For income tax, as I mentioned earlier, the situs is the residence or the citizenship or place where the income was earned. Like example, kagina, sa akon nga copyrighted materials, ang earnings ko out of sa akon copyrighted materials will be declared, filed, and paid in the BIR nga may jurisdiction sa akon nga lugar, the residence or citizenship or place nakon. Okay, residency nakon for income tax. For import duties, the situs is where the activity happens. So natural sa port of entry. Kung diin ang port of entry, kung sa Cebu man or sa Manila or sa Davao, so the taxes or the import duties will be paid on those mentioned places or on the BIR office under those nga may jurisdiction sa ginpa-mention ko nga mga lugar. Property tax, the situs, the location of the property. Actually, okay guys, see you next meeting. Dismiss.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, good sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.